Sarah Chen wiped the sweat from her face as she looked at the mining machines working in the asteroid field. The year was 2387, and she had been running this operation for 3 years now. Around her, 23 other humans worked the heavy equipment, pulling precious metals from the rocks that floated in the darkness of space. The Kepler 442 asteroid belt was not a nice place to work. The rocks were sharp and dangerous. The mining machines broke down often. The work was hard and the pay was small. But this was what humans did in the galaxy now. They worked the jobs that other species did not want. Sarah watched as Vorthok Commander Zixfor, 471, walked through the mining station. The insect-like alien was twice as tall as any human, with 4 arms and eyes that never seemed to blink. His green shell shined under the station lights as he checked the daily reports. "Human Chen," the Vorthok said in his clicking voice.
Ow.
"Your workers are behind quota again. The Confederation expects better results." Sarah bit back the words she really wanted to say. "Yes, Commander. We had problems with Machine 7 yesterday. It should be fixed by tomorrow." The Vorthok made a sound that might have been laughter. "Always excuses with your kind. This is why humans serve and others lead." She lacked the mental strength for real work. When the Vorthok left, Sarah's friend Marcus walked over. Marcus was older, with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been working space jobs longer than anyone else on the crew. "One day," Marcus said quietly, "they will push too far." Sarah looked at him with surprise. Marcus never talked like this. He was always careful, always polite to the aliens who ran everything. "What do you mean?" she asked. Marcus looked around to make sure no one was listening. "My grandfather told me stories about what humans used to be like, before we joined the Confederation. We were not always miners and farmers, Sarah." Before Sarah could ask more, the communication system started making noise. A message was coming in from somewhere far away. Sarah walked to the control panel and turned on the speakers. The voice that came through was human, but full of fear. "This is New Geneva Colony. We need help. Something is happening here. The Confederation ships came 3 days ago. They said we were sick, that we had a dangerous disease. But we are not sick. They are taking people away. They are." The message stopped suddenly. Only empty space noise came through the speakers now. Sarah tried to call back, but there was no answer. She tried other communication channels, but New Geneva was silent. "What was that about?" asked Jenny, one of the younger workers. Sarah shook her head. "I do not know, but New Geneva has 2 million people. They do not just go quiet." She called the Confederation Communication Center and asked about New Geneva. The alien voice on the other end was cold and matter-of-fact. "New Geneva Colony has been placed under medical quarantine. All communication is restricted for health safety. This information is classified. Do not ask again." The communication ended with a sharp click. That night, Sarah could not sleep. She kept thinking about the fear in that human voice. She kept thinking about Marcus and his stories. She walked to the observation window and looked out at the stars. Earth was somewhere out there, far away. Humans had been part of the Galactic Confederation for almost 200 years now. In school, they taught that joining was the best thing that ever happened to humanity. The aliens brought peace, technology, safety to the galaxy. But Sarah had always wondered why humans seemed to do all the hard work, while other species made all the decisions. The Vorthok were the military leaders. The Zelani, who were made of pure energy, handled science and thinking jobs. The big rock-like Kroger did security work. Dozens of other species had important roles. Humans grew food, mined asteroids, and cleaned things. Could not sleep either? Marcus appeared beside her at the window. "Marcus, tell me those stories your grandfather told you." The old man was quiet for a long time, and he began to speak in a voice so low she had to lean close to hear. He said humans used to explore the stars first. Before any of the other species left their homeworlds, humans were already traveling between galaxies. He said, "We built great cities and had technology that could do amazing things. What happened to all that? I do not know. Maybe it is just old stories," but he said something else too. He said humans had something inside them that the other species feared. Something powerful and dangerous when it was awakened. Sarah felt a strange feeling in her chest, like something sleeping was starting to wake up. "We should go to New Geneva," she said suddenly. Marcus looked at her with shock. "Sarah, we cannot. We have work quotas. The Confederation would punish us. 2 million people, Marcus. Something happened to 2 million people and no one cares because they are human." She turned away from the window and walked to the communication center. Her hands moved over the controls, sending messages to other human work crews in the area. Most did not answer, but some did. By morning, Sarah had made contact with 12 other human crews. All of them had heard strange things about human colonies going quiet. All of them had questions that no one would answer. "This is crazy," said Jenny. When Sarah told the crew her plan, "We're just miners. We cannot go against the Confederation." "Maybe that is the problem," Sarah said. "Maybe we have been just miners for too long." She looked at each person in her crew. They were tired people, worn down by years of hard work and being told they were not important. But in their eyes, she saw something else. Something that looked like the beginning of anger. "I am going to New Geneva," Sarah announced. "Anyone who wants to come with me can. Anyone who wants to stay can keep mining rocks." Marcus was the first to step forward. "I am with you." One by one, the others followed. Even Jenny, after a long moment of thinking, as their ship prepared to leave the asteroid field, Sarah felt that strange feeling in her chest grow stronger. Something was waking up inside her, inside all of them. She did not know yet that this feeling was being felt by humans all across the galaxy. She did not know that something terrible and wonderful was about to begin. All she knew was that she was tired of being small, tired of being ignored, and tired of being afraid. The universe was about to learn something it had forgotten for 200 years. It was about to remember what happened when humans got angry. Sarah's ship came out of faster-than-light travel near New Geneva. What she saw made her stomach feel sick. The planet looked wrong. Where there should have been lights from cities, there was only darkness. Where communication signals should have been buzzing with life, there was only silence. "My God," whispered Marcus, staring at the screens. "What happened here?" Jenny was working the scanning equipment. Her face was pale. "I am reading no active communication towers, no power grids, no life signs from the major cities." Sarah felt something cold move through her body. 2.5 million people lived on New Geneva. It was one of the biggest human colonies in this part of the galaxy. "Take us down to New Geneva City," she ordered. Their ship moved through the planet's atmosphere. Below them, Sarah could see the shapes of buildings, but no lights, no movement, no signs of life. They landed in what used to be the main city square. Sarah and her crew put on their protective suits and walked outside. The air was breathable, but it smelled wrong. It smelled like death. The buildings around them were damaged. Some had holes blown in their walls. Others looked like they had been burned. But the damage was not random. It looked planned, organized. "Over here," called Tom, one of the younger crew members. He was standing near what used to be the city hall. "Need to see this." Sarah walked over and looked where Tom was pointing. On the wall, someone had written words in what looked like blood. They lied. The sickness was fake. "They came to kill us all." Marcus found more writing on another building. "The Vorthok took the artifacts. They could not let us have them." "What artifacts?" Jenny asked. Before anyone could answer, they heard a sound. It was faint, but it sounded like someone calling for help. Sarah and her crew followed the sound to a building that looked like it used to be a school. The sound was coming from underneath the building. They found a hidden door that led to underground tunnels. The tunnels were dark and full of pipes and machinery. As they walked deeper, the sound got louder. "Help us!" a voice called in the darkness. "Please, is someone there?" Sarah turned on her light and called back, "We are here. We are human. We came to help." They found a group of 23 people hiding in a large room underground. They looked thin and scared. Some were hurt. Of them looked like they had not slept in days. An older man with a beard came forward. "I am Dr. Webb," he said. "Thank God you came. We thought everyone was dead." "What happened here?" Sarah asked. Dr. Webb's eyes filled with anger and sadness. 3 weeks ago, Vorthok ships came to our planet. They said we had a dangerous sickness that could spread to other worlds. They said they had to put the whole planet under medical lockdown. I sat down heavily on a box, but there was no sickness. We were healthy. The Vorthok soldiers started taking people away in groups. They said it was for treatment, but the people never came back. Jenny knelt down next to a young girl who was crying. How did you survive? Dr. Webb brought us down here, said a woman holding a baby. He knew something was wrong from the beginning. Sarah looked at Dr. Webb. You are a doctor? I am a scientist who studies old things, he said. I study the ruins and artifacts that people find on different worlds. And that's why I knew the Vorthok were lying. What do you mean? Marcus asked. Dr. Webb stood up and walked to a table covered with papers and strange objects. 3 months ago, our farmers found something buried under their fields. Ancient ruins. Technology that was millions of years old. He picked up a small metal object that seemed to glow with its own light. This technology is amazing. It can power cities, heal sickness, even make space travel faster and easier. But here's the strange part. It only works when humans touch it. Sarah felt that strange feeling in her chest again. Stronger now. Only humans. Only humans. I tested it with Vorthok volunteers, with Zilani scientists, with Kroger workers. Nothing. But when any human touches it, the technology comes alive. Dr. Webb looked around at all of them. I sent my research to the Confederation Science Council. I thought they would be excited. Instead, 3 days later, the Vorthok ships came. They killed everyone for this? Sarah picked up the glowing object. As soon as her fingers touched it, she felt energy move through her body like electricity, but it did not hurt. It felt ... familiar. They were afraid, Dr. Webb said. Think they were afraid of what humans might become if we had access to our ancestors' technology. Our ancestors? That. Jenny asked. Dr. Webb nodded. The more I studied these ruins, the more I realized something amazing. This technology is not alien. Is human. Very, very old human technology. Marcus sat down hard on a crate. You were saying humans built this? Millions of years ago? I am saying that humans were in this galaxy long before any of the species that make up the Confederation now. I think we were here first. Sarah felt the metal object growing warm and her hand, images started to appear in her mind. She saw great cities floating in space. She saw humans working with technology that seemed like magic. She saw starships that could cross the galaxy in moments. If this is true, she said slowly, then everything they taught us about human history is a lie. Dr. Webb nodded sadly. I think humans once ruled this galaxy. I think something happened that made us forget who we were. And I think the other species have been keeping us weak and stupid on purpose. Sarah felt anger growing inside her chest. But this was different from any anger she had felt before. This felt like fire spreading through her whole body. They have been keeping us as slaves, she said. And when we started to remember who we really were, Dr. Webb said, they decided to kill us all. Sarah looked around at the survivors, then at her crew. All of them had the same look in their eyes now, the same fire she felt inside herself. She activated her communication device and sent a message on the secret human networks that connected workers across the galaxy. This is Sarah Chen, she said. I am broadcasting from New Geneva Colony. The Confederation lied to us. They murdered 2.5 million humans to cover up the truth about who we really are. She held up the glowing artifact so her crew's cameras could record it. We are not weak. We are not stupid. We're not meant to be slaves. Our ancestors built technology that could change the galaxy. And the Confederation has been hiding it from us for hundreds of years. Sarah felt the anger spreading, not just through her, but somehow through space itself, reaching out to touch other humans on distant worlds. They thought they could keep us down forever. They thought we would never remember. They were wrong. Her message traveled across the galaxy. Reaching human workers on 1,000 different worlds, Sarah felt something happening. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time was finally starting to wake up. The universe was about to discover that some things should never be forgotten, and some people should never be pushed too far. Sarah's message traveled across the galaxy faster than she expected. Within hours, Responses started coming back from human workers on dozens of worlds. "This is Mining Station Omega 7. We believe you. Strange things have been happening here too." Factory. Complex Delta Prime reporting. "Our Zilani supervisors have been asking weird questions about old ruins. Agricultural World Harvest 9 here. It just doubled our security patrols. No explanation given." Sarah stood in the ruins of New Geneva City, listening to the voices of humans she had never met but somehow felt connected to. Dr. Webb worked nearby, studying more artifacts they had found in the underground tunnels. "Sarah, you need to see this," Dr. Webb called out. He was holding a larger piece of the ancient technology, something that looked like a crystal mixed with metal. When Sarah touched it, her mind exploded with images.
Oh.
She saw humans building great ships that could travel between stars in seconds. She saw cities that floated in space, bigger than planets. She saw humans working together with a unity and purpose that took her breath away. But she also saw something else. She saw the other species as they were millions of years ago. Small, primitive, afraid. The Vorthok were just insects hiding in caves. The Zilani were weak energy creatures that could barely think. The Kroger were simple rock formations with no consciousness at all. "We taught them," Sarah whispered, as the visions filled her mind. "We helped them become intelligent. We gave them technology. We made them into what they are today." Dr. Webb nodded. And then something happened. "I think humans left this galaxy for some reason. Maybe we evolved into something higher. Maybe we just got bored and went exploring beyond the edge of space. But some of us stayed behind," Sarah said, understanding flooding through her. "Yes. The humans who wanted to start over, to live simple lives. Our ancestors forgot their power on purpose. They wanted to be farmers and builders instead of galaxy rulers." Sarah felt the artifact pulse in her hand. The species we had helped took over. They built the Confederation on the ruins of human civilization. "Worse than that," Dr. Webb said sadly. "I think they have been keeping us weak on purpose. Changing our food, our medicine, our education, making sure we never remembered what we used to be." Marcus ran up to them, his face excited and worried at the same time. "Sarah, you need to hear this. Jenny is monitoring Confederation communications. They are panicking." They rushed back to their ship, where Jenny sat surrounded by glowing screens. "The Confederation Council is holding emergency meetings," she said. "I am picking up military communications from all across the galaxy." She played a recording of Vorthok voices clicking rapidly in their language. Dr. Webb translated as they listened. "They are saying the humans are awakening. They are talking about something called Code Red Extinction Protocol. We want to activate it before we become too dangerous." Sarah felt ice move through her veins. "What is Code Red Extinction Protocol?" Dr. Webb's face went white. "I think it means they want to kill all humans everywhere before we remember too much." As if to prove his words, Jenny's equipment started picking up military communications from dozens of Confederation fleets. Ships were moving toward human colonies across the galaxy. "They are not even pretending anymore," Marcus said. "They're just going to wipe us out." Sarah looked around at her small crew, then at the survivors from New Geneva. 26 people total, against the entire Galactic Confederation. But as she held the ancient artifact, she felt something growing inside her that was bigger than fear. It was anger, but not the kind of anger she had known before. This was the anger of a species that had been lied to for centuries. This was the anger of children who had been kept in chains by the people they had once helped. "Jenny, can you boost our communication system with this?" Sarah held up the artifact. "I can try." Jenny connected the ancient technology to their ship's communications. Immediately, their signal strength increased by thousands of times. Sarah could now reach every human worker in the galaxy. "This is Sarah Chen again," she said into the communication system. "They are coming to kill us all. Every human on every world. The Confederation has decided we are too dangerous to live." She paused, feeling the anger growing not just in herself, but somehow flowing through the communication waves to touch other humans across space. But they made a mistake. They let us remember who we really are, and now we are not going to hide anymore. Responses started flooding back immediately. But these were different from before. These voices were full of the same anger Sarah felt. Mining. Station Omega 7. We found artifacts here too. We found weapons. Old human weapons that still work. Factory Complex Delta Prime, half our crew just walked off their jobs. They said they are done being slaves. Agricultural World Harvest 9. The Kroger security guards tried to stop us from leaving. They could not. We are stronger than we thought. Dr. Webb was working frantically with more artifacts. Sarah, these are not just tools. They are memory. Storage devices. They contain the knowledge of our ancestors. What kind of knowledge? Everything. How to build starships. How to make weapons that can destroy planets. How to unite human minds across vast distances. He looked up at her with wonder and fear. How to make the other species remember their place. Sarah felt the artifact in her hand growing warm again. New knowledge flowed into her mind. She suddenly understood how to modify their ship's engines to make them faster than anything the Confederation had. She knew how to turn their mining equipment into weapons of war. She knew how to call out to every human in the galaxy and make them feel what she was feeling. And what she was feeling was fury. Double quotes, Jenny, Marcus, Tom, all of you, she said. Touch the artifacts. Let them teach you. One by one, her crew placed their hands on the ancient technology. Their eyes went wide as knowledge that had been sleeping for millions of years flowed into their minds. My God, whispered Jenny. We were not just explorers. We were the most powerful species the galaxy had ever seen. And we can be again, Sarah said. She activated the communication system one more time. But now she did something different. She used the ancient knowledge to connect not just with human communication devices, but with human minds directly. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, humans suddenly stopped what they were doing. They felt Sarah's anger flowing into them like electricity. They felt the memories of their ancestors awakening in their minds. They felt the power that had been hidden from them for so long, and they got angry. On mining stations, human workers threw down their tools and looked at their alien supervisors with new eyes. On agricultural worlds, human farmers stood up from their fields and remembered that they had once owned the stars. On factory planets, human laborers stopped building things for other species and started building things for themselves. The Confederation. Military ships racing toward human colonies suddenly found themselves facing something they had never encountered before. Humans who were no longer afraid. Humans who were no longer weak. Humans who remembered what they were capable of when they worked together. It has begun, Sarah said, watching as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. They wanted to destroy us before we could remember, but they are too late. Dr. Webb smiled for the first time since they had found him.
As the universe is about
To learn why our ancestors were feared, Sarah felt the power growing inside her, connecting her to millions of other humans who were feeling the same awakening. For the first time in centuries, humanity was becoming one people again, and they were very, very angry. The war began 3 days after Sarah's message reached the galaxy. It started on mining station Omega 7, where human workers had found ancient weapons buried in asteroid cores. When Vorthok warships arrived to begin the human extermination, they expected to find frightened miners hiding in their tunnels. Instead, they found humans flying ships that moved faster than anything in the Confederation fleet. They found weapons that could cut through Vorthok battle armor like paper. They found an enemy that fought with a fury that made no sense to their military computers. The first Vorthok commander to encounter awakened humans sent only one message back to his superiors before his ship was destroyed. They are not the same species we have been ruling. Something has changed them. Send everything we have. Sarah stood on the bridge of her ship, which Dr. Webb had transformed using the ancient technology. Where once she had commanded a simple mining vessel, she now controlled something that could travel between star systems in minutes and hit targets from halfway across a solar system. Reports coming in from all sectors, Jenny announced. She was no longer just a communications officer. The ancient knowledge had taught her how to coordinate battles across dozens of worlds at the same time. Human forces are engaging Confederation fleets everywhere. Sarah watched the tactical displays showing the galaxy-wide conflict. Red dots marked Confederation ships. Blue dots marked human forces. 3 days ago, there had been almost no blue dots. Now, they filled the screen like stars. Agricultural World Harvest 9 reports complete victory, Jenny continued. The Kroger security forces surrendered after humans demonstrated their new weapons. Human casualties. Factory Complex Delta Prime has taken control of the weapons manufacturing plants. They are now building human ships instead of Confederation equipment. Mining operations across the Outer Rim have formed a unified fleet. They are moving to protect the colony worlds that have not been attacked yet. Marcus walked up to Sarah, his face serious. We are winning every battle, but the Confederation is bringing in their reserve fleets. Ships from the core worlds that have been hidden for centuries. Sarah nodded. She had expected this. The Confederation had been preparing for the possibility of human uprising for a long time. They had weapons and ships that they had never shown to anyone. Dr. Webb, how many humans have accessed the artifacts now? Dr. Webb looked up from his workstation, where he was decoding more ancient technology. Based on the psychic resonance patterns, I estimate about 40 million humans have made direct contact with ancestral memory devices. But the awakening is spreading to others even without direct contact. What do you mean? It's the anger you felt, the knowledge you gained. It is somehow transferring from human to human. It's like a virus, but a good virus. Every human who awakens helps awaken others. Sarah felt the truth of this in her own mind. She could sense other humans across the galaxy, their thoughts and emotions flowing together into something larger than any individual. It was like being part of a vast family that stretched across the stars. Sarah, Jenny said urgently, we are getting reports of something new. The Confederation is using weapons we have never seen before. The main screen showed a battle happening near the human colony of New Hope. Confederation. Ships were firing beams of energy that seemed to tear holes in space itself. Human ships that were hit by these weapons simply vanished. Reality destroyers, Dr. Webb said quietly. Remember reading about them in the ancient files. Weapons that unmake matter at the quantum level. Sarah felt a chill run through her. Can we defend against them? Our ancestors could. But the knowledge of how to build those defenses was in the deepest storage levels. I have not found it yet. Before Sarah could respond, alarms started sounding throughout the ship. Jenny's face went pale as she read her instruments. Massive Confederation fleet approaching our position. 200 ships, including 3 reality destroyer platforms. Sarah looked at the tactical display. The enemy fleet was enormous, bigger than anything she had seen since the war began. At its center were 3 ships that looked different from anything else in the Confederation Navy. They were black as space itself and seemed to bend light around them. They found us, Marcus said. They know we are coordinating the human forces from here. Sarah felt the artifact in her hand growing warm. New knowledge flowed into her mind. But this was different from before. This was not just information about technology or weapons. This was something deeper. She saw the final battle that had been fought millions of years ago. When her ancestors had faced the same choice she was facing now, she saw humans deciding to leave the galaxy rather than destroy the species they had helped create. She saw the great ships disappearing into deep space, carrying most of humanity to unknown realms. But she also saw something else. She saw the failsafe they had left behind. Dr. Webb, she said suddenly, where is the nearest dead star? Dead star? The closest one is about 6 light years from here. But Sarah, we do not have time to. We do not need to go there, Sarah. Interrupted. We need to wake it up. Dr. Webb stared at her. Wake it up, Sarah. You cannot wake up a dead star. That is impossible. Sarah smiled, feeling the ancient knowledge flowing through her like fire. Not impossible, just forgotten. She placed both hands on the largest artifact they had found, feeling its power flow through her and out into space. She reached out with her mind, beyond their ship, beyond the approaching enemy fleet, to the cold dead star floating in the darkness. 6 light years away, her ancestors had not just built ships and weapons, They had learned to touch the fundamental forces of the universe itself. They had discovered that consciousness, when focused and unified, could affect reality at the deepest level, and they had built triggers into the dead stars waiting for the day when humanity might need them again. Sarah felt her consciousness touch the cold stellar remnant. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the dead star began to remember what it had been. Light bloomed in the darkness 6 light years away as nuclear fusion reignited. The reborn star sent out a pulse of energy that traveled faster than light itself, carrying with it the awakened consciousness of every human in the galaxy. The pulse hit the Confederation fleet just as they prepared to fire their reality destroyers. But instead of destroying the human ships, something unexpected happened. The pulse reached into the minds of every Vorthok, every Zilani, every Kroger in the fleet. For the first time in millions of years, they remembered what they had forgotten. They remembered being small and afraid. They remembered being helped and protected by the species they now called their enemies. They remembered owing their entire civilization to humanity one by one. The Confederation ships stopped attacking. The reality destroyers powered down. Across the galaxy, as the pulse spread from star to star, the war began to end, not with victory or defeat, but with recognition. "My God," Dr. Webb whispered, watching the readings on his instruments. "Did not just wake up a star, you woke up the galaxy itself." Sarah smiled, feeling the anger that had driven her for so long beginning to transform into something else. Something that felt like justice, but also like forgiveness. "Our ancestors left us more than just weapons and ships," she said. "Left us the power to make others remember the truth around them." The universe began to settle into a new pattern. The age of lies was ending. The age of remembering had begun. 6 months after the pulse changed everything, Sarah stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station. The station had been built where New Geneva City once lay in ruins, but now it was something beautiful. Human and alien engineers had worked together to create a place that honored both the dead and the living. Through the great windows, Sarah could see ships from all across the galaxy. Vorthok vessels flew alongside human freighters. Zilani energy forms danced around Kroger transport ships. But now they flew as equals, not as masters and servants. The war had ended not with anyone's defeat, but with understanding. When the pulse had reached every mind in the galaxy, forcing them to remember the truth, everything had changed in a single moment. The Vorthok commanders had stopped their attacks and sent messages of confusion and shame. The Zilani had withdrawn their fleets and begun studying ancient human texts they had hidden for centuries. The Kroger had simply stopped following orders and started asking questions. Dr. Webb walked up beside Sarah, carrying a cup of coffee and a tablet full of reports. "The last of the Confederation military stations have agreed to the new peace treaty," he said. "We now have a unified galactic government based on cooperation instead of domination." Sarah smiled. "What about the reality destroyers?" "Dismantled. All of them. The technology has been locked away where it can never be used again." Dr. Webb sipped his coffee, though I suspect if humans ever needed such weapons again, we could build better ones. Let us hope we never need to. Marcus joined them at the window. He looked older now, but also more peaceful than Sarah had ever seen him. "The memorial service for New Geneva is starting in an hour. Families of the survivors want you to speak." Sarah nodded. Even with all the changes, even with the new peace, she could never forget the 2.5 million people who had died because the Confederation feared the truth. "What will you tell them?" Dr. Webb asked. Sarah thought for a moment. That their deaths were not meaningless. That because of what happened here, no species will ever again have to live in fear of another. Jenny appeared in the doorway, her arms full of communication equipment. "Sarah, you need to see this. We're getting strange readings from the deep space sensors." They followed Jenny to the station's main communication center. The room was filled with screens showing star charts and energy readings. What Sarah saw there made her heart skip. "Ships," Jenny said. "Thousands of them, maybe millions. coming from outside the galaxy. Dr. Webb studied the readings, his face growing excited. The energy signatures, they are unlike anything we have ever seen. But there are human life signs aboard those ships. Sarah felt something stir in her chest. The same feeling she had experienced when she first touched the ancient artifacts, but stronger. Our ancestors, she whispered. It looks like they are. Coming home, Marcus said. Over the next few hours, reports came in from observation stations across the galaxy. The approaching fleet was vast beyond imagination. Ships the size of planets, carrying technologies that made even the awakened human. Knowledge seemed simple by comparison. But most importantly, the ships were sending a message. It was in an ancient human language that Dr. Webb had to use the artifacts to translate. Children of Earth, the message said, we have felt your awakening across the void. We have felt your anger, your pain, and your growth. We come home too. See what you have built, and to celebrate what you have become. Sarah felt tears in her eyes. For millions of years, humanity's greatest children had been traveling the universe, exploring realities beyond imagination. And now they were coming home because their younger siblings had finally grown up. 3 days later, the first of the ancestor ships entered the galaxy. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time, made of materials that seemed to be part metal, part light and part something else entirely. As it approached the galactic core, every species could feel its presence like a whisper in their minds. Sarah was aboard the first diplomatic ship to make contact. As her vessel approached the ancestor ship, she felt her consciousness expanding. Touching minds that had evolved far beyond anything she had imagined possible, the beings that greeted her looked human, but they also looked like living starlight. They moved through space without ships, thought across galaxies without communication devices, and spoke directly to her soul without using words.
Our little sister, one of them said.
And Sarah somehow knew this being had once been human like her. Millions of years ago, you have done well. You have learned that true strength comes not from ruling others, but from lifting them up. We almost lost everything, Sarah replied. We almost forgot who we were completely. That was always the risk. When we left, we hoped that someday you would choose to remember on your own. We could have awakened you at any time, but the choice had to be yours. Sarah understood. The ancestors had not abandoned their younger siblings. They had given them the gift of choice, the chance to decide what kind of species they wanted to be. What happens now? She asked, the ancestor being smiled with light that warmed her entire soul. Now you choose again. You can come with us, explore the infinite realities beyond this galaxy. Or you can stay and continue to guide the younger species as we once guided you. Sarah felt the weight of the decision, not just for herself but for all humanity. Through the psychic connection that linked all awakened humans, she could feel millions of her people considering the same choice. But as she thought about Dr. Webb, working to help other species understand their history, about Marcus's teaching, young Vorthok, about cooperation, about Jenny coordinating peaceful exploration missions with former enemies, Sarah knew what her answer would be. We will stay, she said. At least for now. There is still work to do here. The ancestor being nodded with approval that filled Sarah with warmth. Then we will leave teachers among you, and explorers from your generation may join us when they are ready. The universe is large enough for all paths. Months later, Sarah stood once again on the observation deck of New Geneva Station. But now she wore the uniform of the first human admiral of the Galactic Cooperation Council. The galaxy had a new government, one based on the principles humanity had learned from both their ancient ancestors and their recent struggles. Children played in the station's gardens, human and alien alike, learning together and growing up as friends instead of enemies. Scientists from all species worked together to unlock the peaceful secrets of ancient technology. Artists created beauty that celebrated the diversity of galactic civilization. Dr. Webb had established universities on 100 worlds, teaching the real history of the galaxy to anyone who wanted to learn. Marcus led the new Galactic Peace Corps, helping to solve conflicts between worlds through understanding instead of force. And sometimes, on quiet nights like this one, Sarah would look up at the stars and remember the lesson that had cost so much to learn. She would remember that the universe was a vast and wonderful place, full of different kinds of life that all deserved respect and freedom. But she would also remember something else, something that every species in the galaxy now knew and would never forget again. The universe still shivered when humans got angry. But now it also sang when humans chose love over hate, cooperation over domination, and hope over fear. And that song echoed across all the stars, reminding everyone who heard it that sometimes the greatest strength was knowing when not to use your power. And the greatest victory was helping your former enemies become your friends. The age of remembering had become the age of building something better together, and in the vast infinity of space, ancient beings who had once been human smiled and continued their eternal journey, knowing their children had chosen well.